It's time to answer your questions. Okay, we've gotten questions far and wide. Most importantly, which is the most overrated ex New Jersey, ex Syracuse player? All that and more. We talk on Locked On Syracuse today. It starts right now.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Matt Bonaparte, Owen Valentine with you on your Wednesday episode. Thanks for making Locked On Syracuse your first day, or first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts. And today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right. We are doing another mailbag episode. I love them. You love them. Everybody loves them, Owen. Owen's wearing hilarious headphones. If you are an audio listener, you're missing out on Owen's hilarious headphones. Also, just want to say thanks for 800 subscribers. We just hit on the YouTube. I assume that Owen's philanthropic efforts are helping us get to our goal of 1,000. So let's keep going on that train.
Oh, yeah.
But let's just jump right into it. Let's do questions. You want to start on Twitter or our email?
It surprised me. I've looked at the Twitter question, so go with.
Okay, then we're going to start on the email.
Start with the email. Throw me off.
If you want to be a part of the next mailbag, you have questions that you want us to answer, we will answer them. Likely, like a 95% chance. Just, got to make sure. Got to vet these questions.
Oh, yeah.
Email us, losyracuse44@gmail.com to get your voice heard. We want to hear what you have to say about Syracuse football, Syracuse basketball, whatever. Well, we want to hear about it. Okay. First question is from Scott. Scott says, "Hey guys, has this 5-0 start changed your perception of Dino Babers at all relative to how you felt about him going into the season?" I think this is a question that a lot of people have kind of been thinking about at this point in the year, because going into the year, everybody, I feel like, obviously not wanted Syracuse to play poorly, but I think there was a camp out there that wanted Dino to play himself out of the job because they don't like Dino and they think Dino's a bad coach. I think I'm higher on Dino than everybody else is, because whenever the team doesn't play well, the coach is blamed. But at the same time, there are reasons that Dino has been at the center of the blame before. I mean, if you go to last year, clock management was worse than it had ever been. That Clemson game was so bad, and there were so many close games that they should have won. And Tommy DeVito is out playing fantastic football in Illinois. Kind of makes you think that maybe Dino's offense doesn't work unless there's a mobile quarterback in it. But regardless of all that, they're 5-0, and there's not a lot you can say poorly in a negative light about Dino right now, because he's leading this team to an undefeated record. I, despite all that, I honestly think I'm in the same spot I was at the beginning of the year with Dino, just because, yes, you're 5-0, but you still haven't clinched the bowl game that everybody has been saying is the one thing that you need to do to stick around. And he hasn't. I mean, yes, you've beaten Purdue, which has been a formidable opponent, but outside of that, show me a good team you beat. They haven't beat a ranked team. I want to see them beat a really good team before I believe that this team can win 11 games like some people think they can.
Yeah, where I sort of stand on this, and I think you nailed it when you said that you haven't changed in terms of your ideas. I think that's spot on. I haven't really seen anything out of Dino this year that changes where I stood on him preseason. I think I was more down on him coming into the year than you were. And this year, as you were saying, hasn't really done anything to change my perspective and change my perception of Dino. I will say this, though. I think a 5-0 start and any competent finish to this season will change my thoughts on how long he stays. And I think if he gets
Sure.
to 8 wins this season, that in my mind, he finishes out his contract at Syracuse. And I think that,
I think he's already
yeah,
doing that.
because
I
of
think that's already going to
given the
happen.
buyout situation where, preseason reports said he's going to be owed over 10 million already, if he finishes this season out. So after this season, it's a $10 million buyout still. I think that says enough for me. Plus the wins and any sort of competent finish to this season, his job is safe. Now, I will say this. I don't think his job is safe this year as a result of anything that he has done. I think his job is safe this season as a result of the coordinators, which I guess you can give him a nod because he has pull as to the coordinators that are coming in, and you're shaking your head. So please disagree with me if you want to.
I'm not
But
shaking my head.
I
I'm
just
just
I
saying,
haven't seen
not
anything
exactly.
that Dino has done differently this year that is the reason that they're winning football games. They're not winning football games right now because of Dino decisions. They're winning football games right now because the coordinators are stepping up and doing their job. And not because Dino has stepped up recruiting
Okay.
or because Dino has improved his time management or that Dino has improved his ability to coach an offense or a defense. They're winning football games right now because the coordinators are doing a far better job than they had in the earlier portions of Dino's career, barring 2018 success.
Three things I'll say. One is we don't know exactly what Dino has done differently or not, just because he plays his cards so close to the
True.
chest. Um, Outwardly, it doesn't look like a lot has changed. Two, I think there's a lot to be said about the leader of a 5-0 team, the guy that is on the top. And for Dino, who has struggled 11 and 24 in his last three seasons, I think there's some credit to be given for him to be the head coach of a 5-0 football team right now. Really, I think there is. Um, and thirdly, is I think that you have to give him some credit in terms of recruiting because he brings in guys. Syracuse has never, or not never, but has not been for an entirety of Dino's tenure. They have not been a recruiting powerhouse in any sense of the word. Despite that, he has brought in 3 stars that have been playing like 5 stars, like Garrett Williams, Michael Jones, and Sean Tucker. So I think you got to give him credit for that. But other than that, I think we haven't seen him get better clock management. That's totally
Yeah,
true.
I just
And I still don't trust him when the game is close late to make the right decisions. But maybe he'll prove me wrong. Maybe he took a class. Who knows? We got to move
all
on.
right. Cut me off,
Okay, thank you
Holmes.
for
I
the
see.
question, Scott. We are on
I
what?
said cut me off. I see. Get the last
But we're
word.
8 minutes
All
in.
right.
We did one
All
question. We're
right.
8 minutes in,
All right.
and in
Maybe this is
fact,
telling
I
us
have
we
got to
need a
take.
Dino conversation full episode in our next 2 weeks.
Yes, we might need that. Um, with that, I have to take a break and to tell you about Nissan. Our partners at Nissan have worked with us to create a new segment across the Locked On College Network titled Thrilling Moments, where we highlight the most exciting play from Syracuse's weekend game or throughout the history of our alma mater. This week's thrilling moment from the team is I'm going to go Umari Hatcher's uh, touchdown. That was a really sweet touchdown in that Wagner game. Um, I mean, the catch was kind of ridiculous, and maybe we get a question about him. A little sneak peek for you. This segment has been inspired by the thrilling new designs featured across Nissan's new lineup of vehicles. Pursue what thrills you in the all-new Frontier, Armada, or Pathfinder today. Available now at nissanusa.com. All right, we're back. Owen, I feel bad for cutting you off. What do you have to say?
That's okay. We'll talk about it another time.
No, I won't move on. You have to say
Okay,
something.
I was just gonna say, and to quickly summarize the Dino recruiting conversation, is it too much to ask for a 4 star that turns out playing like a 4 star as opposed to the
Deuce
I
Chestnut.
know, but like I want to see improvement in terms of the ranking because
So do I.
that
Yeah.
I do want to see, and I get eye tests, and I'm very pro eye test and so much, but I do just want to see some numerical backing with a really good class. You look at 2018 and the 2019 class, I believe, was worse. You win 10 games, and I believe this 28 or the 2019 class was worse or only a few spots better. Like it was not the shift you needed, and they don't take advantage of momentum, which I think we discussed earlier in the offseason. That is just my Dino recruiting spiel, and I think maybe this, as I said a second ago, this could bar a full episode moving forward in the next couple of weeks with recruiting and a full Dino conversation. So let's go. Next question. We'll go a little more rapid fire, hopefully.
Okay.
Let's see where we end up.
That class, 2019 class, was 6 spots worse than 2018.
Oh, I was
Just
right.
you
Huge
were right. Okay.
momentum
Next question
buried.
comes from Tom. He says, "Guys, enjoy the show. Question: How much?" Thank you, by the way, Tom. I appreciate that. He says, "How much was Syracuse offensive mishaps slash struggles against Purdue and Virginia due to these teams having film on Cuse, whereas Louisville didn't have any? And how much was self inflicted? I think we have the offensive skill players and back eight to do okay in the remaining games. How well we do will come down on or to injuries and line play, both O and D lines. Go Orange." Um, I don't know. I think that Purdue is just a better team, and I had a feeling that Virginia was going to play Syracuse close. I don't really know why I did, just because there's a lot of talent there. And I'm not saying there's not a lot of talent in Louisville, but I don't know how has Louisville done recently. While I look that up, feel
Yeah.
free to give your
So my
spiel.
my thought on this, and I think it's a fair point to bring up, and I think it contributes a little bit, but I do think it's more a nod to how Syracuse's offense played in those games. It definitely helps, for a Purdue defense to have a couple of games worth of knowledge of what Syracuse can do, and then the following game, Virginia's got a lot more footage of what this offense is going to try and do against better teams and better opponents. So now you've got a Louisville game. UConn, you're not really gaining all too much in terms of footage and film and knowledge from there. But then you bring in this footage from Purdue in a game where Syracuse really had to do everything in its power and dig deep into the heart, I guess, and playbook and things of that nature. So the footage there is bountiful at this point and is getting to be bountiful. So I think it can play a difference, but I would chalk it up a heck of a lot more to the way Syracuse's offense played in that game as opposed to the way, opposing defenses were able to plan with a little bit more footage.
Yeah. I was just looking at the Louisville schedule. They beat UCF, lost to Florida State, beat USF, who are terrible, and then they just lost by 1 point to Boston College this past weekend. So they did lose to a
Boston
BC
College
team
is is not great.
I they lost to a BC team that I think Syracuse is going to kill.
Yeah.
So we'll see. They do play Virginia this week, which will be pretty telling, and be interesting to see what they do against Virginia. But I don't know how much it is, how much it was film. And what was the second part of this question? How well we do will come down to injuries and line play. Wasn't a question. I think you're not wrong about that.
That's
Offensive line
fair.
staying healthy and playing well is going to be really important for the offense.
Yeah.
Okay, Tom, thank you very much for the question. We really appreciate it. Next question is: Do you think Hatcher will get more time at receiver after the Wagner game? Maybe. Like I just said, he was the thrilling Nissan moment of the week. I think he's a really good player and will have his day in Syracuse, but I don't know if he's going to play all that much this year.
I agree. I don't know, given the situation with the receivers right now, how much his role can shift and elevate at this point. I think they've sort of solidified who they want to throw the ball to. And that doesn't mean that Hatcher's not going to get an occasional look here and there, but I don't think you're going to see a huge step up for him in terms of the role that he plays in this receiving core this year. But I like, the point you made. You can definitely, I would chalk him up as a guy that you're going to see progressively more and more of if he, finishes out his time at Q's.
Totally. All right, that's it for the email. Let's go over to the Twitter. If you would like to be a part of this on Twitter, follow us on Twitter at LO_Syracuse. We throw out one Twitter post a week you can reply to that we kind of congregate all these questions on. First one up. If Cuse was in the ACC Coastal, they would almost be a shoo-in to play in the ACC championship game. Not a question, but more of a statement from Lucas. Let's look at that. Have you seen that? Have you looked?
I have the Coastal standings up right now. Um, it's a fair question. I don't know if I would say a shoe-in,
Wow, the
but
Coastal's terrible.
they're terrible. Syracuse's chances are exponentially better to play in the ACC championship in the Coastal. I don't know if I can chalk it as a shoe-in, but I can definitely say that it is in very much in the realm of possibility that Syracuse would be in the ACC championship game if they found themselves on the other side of these divisions.
Yeah, that's nuts. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I
That's
mean
pretty crazy. I think I want
Duke
to
has
see
had a good
Pitt.
year in terms of wins, but like they're
They've only
still
played one
not a
conference
great
team. Yeah.
team.
I think I want
UNC
to see
is not
Pitt play
great.
another conference game.
Yeah, Pitt's the one that I'm a little worried about, especially just given Syracuse's consistent struggles against Pitt, and that always
Yeah.
ended up being a game where I feel like there's 300 points scored. But like I don't know. I'm saying they're very much in the conversation,
Makes it
and
a
if
lot easier. Totally.
I would say in terms of a betting line, maybe BetOnline they can find us with the hypothetical Syracuse odds to win the Coastal if they were on the other side. Uh, I'd see it. My gauge would probably be at like a plus 150, plus 200, saying that like it could happen. It's not a guarantee. It's not but like they're close to the betting favorite, I would say, to win the Coastal, which is I'm going to say
Definitely interesting.
more attributed to how bad the Coastal is than how good Syracuse is. I would say that as well.
Pitt, by the way, just lost to Georgia Tech this weekend,
Yeah,
which,
it
wow.
was hideous. That game was
Yeah, I'm
disgustingly
sure.
ugly from
I
Pitt.
didn't see it. All right, let's move on. That was a good one. This guy, Randy, says, what is the ceiling for the basketball team this year? I say NIT. The ceiling is the NIT?
The ceiling is the roof.
I think that's a little bit
That's
absurd. If
atrocious.
you
That's
said
a
your
bad take.
prediction is the NIT, maybe, but the ceiling, you
Yes.
think the best these players play, possibly. They could play their hearts out, they leave everything on the floor, and they play to the highest potential they possibly can. And their ceiling is the NIT. I don't believe that. What is the ceiling for this team? I think they could. I don't think they necessarily will. I think this team could definitely be better than last year's team, just based on the athleticism that's coming in for Syracuse
Yeah.
basketball. There was no athleticism on that team last year. Buddy Boeheim does not move well. Neither does Cole Swider. And I mean, Joe Girard's probably the best athlete and Symir Torrance. I mean, it was just hard to watch last year a lot of the time.
Yeah.
This year, yes, it's going to be a young team, and there's a good chance that Boeheim's going to start 3 freshmen, Judah Bunch and Malik Brown. But I think they could be really good. I think they could be ranked. I think that
I was going
they
to say
could
that.
easily make it to the NCAA tournament, and that's the ceiling. That's where I think that they could be, not necessarily where I think they will be. But if you're talking ceiling, I think they could go to the Elite Eight, Sweet 16. But
That's
that's
where
the
I was
ceiling.
saying ceiling. I was saying the Elite Eight. I would say my thought is that this team will be ranked at some point this year, and I'm not putting that in my ceiling, but I think this is a team that has the capabilities based on what I've seen and based on some of the variables that are coming in. With the variables, though, I will say there's also a chance that, as you were talking about, I could hear an argument for Syracuse being in the NIT this year, saying they don't quite have what it
I think
takes to
it
make
could
the
happen.
tournament. I can
Yeah.
hear that argument, but I think given, I guess, the number of opportunities that this class presents in terms of there's almost like there's fallback options if certain players don't pan out completely, and this team will still be okay and able to compete. I think this is a team that is better than last year, and I think it is definitely a team that, when all is said and done, you could find in the tournament and maybe make a little tournament run like you've seen in recent years. And I say that if they do that, it's not going to be as a surprise 10 seed. It would be as like that 5 or 6 seed that is able to win a couple of games and get going like that.
Yeah. All right. We got to take a quick break. for me to tell you about BetOnline. BetOnline.net is the number one source for your football betting info this season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every game you can find. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sport wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay, we continue on the tweet machine. Next up, this is from Kyle, and this got a good giggle out of both Owen and I when we read it yesterday. More overrated excuse player from Jersey, Taj or DeVito? While it does seem like a joke, kind of a decent question.
Yeah,
Um,
I think we both chuckled yesterday when we first read it, and then we were like, "Hold on, like this, it's actually a debate." When
I
all is
can't
said and
remember
done,
what I said yesterday, but what is your opinion on this?
I'm conflicted in terms of the word disappointment, because disappointment means that they didn't quite reach
Well, he didn't say
expectations.
disappointment. He said overrated.
Oh, overrated. Sorry. Overrated. I guess I'm going to use the same rationale, but switch the word out. Overrated means that there were once high expectations, which might have led to disappointment. So I am back and forth, and it's a two-sided answer here. In terms of disappointment, or in terms of overrated at Syracuse, the answer has got to be Tommy DeVito, just
Right?
because of what you
Has to
expected
be.
him to be. However, if you look at right now and the fact that DeVito has had a pretty solid year so far at Illinois and is playing well, and Taj is not playing at all anymore, I think that you can argue that in that capacity, Taj is the more overrated player. But I think if we're looking through a Syracuse lens, based on the fact that Taj had a couple of, or at least one solid season at Syracuse, and DeVito, albeit he had major contributions to that 2018 team, even in a limited role, was going to be the bigger disappointment. I keep going to disappointment. Was overrated, I guess, just because of what we thought he could have been in terms of the 4-star, the Elite 11 quarterback, all the expectations. He was supposed to be the savior, right? The golden boy. And it didn't quite pan out. So in terms of overrated for Syracuse's lens, I would land on DeVito.
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of totally agree with you. Taj, I didn't expect to be incredible, and then he was until he wasn't. Um, and then I don't think Taj was overrated. I just think he didn't like playing for Syracuse anymore, which is the same case for Tommy. But Tommy uh, was bad, and then he ended up being good somewhere else,
Yeah.
which kind of makes you want to say Tommy's less overrated because he's playing well. But
Yeah.
overrated on the hill. I'm just going to take Syracuse's performance. I'm going to go Tommy just because he was the one that I saw when I was walking to class wearing the TD13 chain, and I was like, "That's hilarious." Um, so I'm going to go Tommy as the more overrated player.
I'll give you
All right,
this before we move it. A nod to
okay,
him in that he has made this a conversation again with the way he's played this season. So props to
yeah,
Tommy, because he looks like a different quarterback over there, and is playing well and competing and winning some football games. So a nod to him for making this a conversation, because if I don't have the hindsight of Illinois, I am not sure that this is the same discussion that we were about to have.
sure, totally. Um, who Michael says who would be your defensive MVP of the football season thus far? Really good question.
Phenomenal.
Um, this one, I think you and I both were thinking it's one of two guys, and Michael Jones or Garrett Williams are those two guys. Um, it's tough because you tell them about the argument you brought up to me yesterday.
So my argument, I sort of looked at the way when you watch NBA voting and NFL voting for the MVP, it's not the most valuable player, it's the best player, and that is, I guess, a gripe that I always pulled out because I am a Seattle fan, and I felt like in terms of value, Russell Wilson was the most valuable guy because the Seahawks would be garbage without him. This
Ooh,
year, my take has been
ooh.
exposed, apparently. But when I look at this, I see if this is an award truly on value and the importance to this defense, my answer is Michael Jones. Without question, I think his leadership, the way he plays, the way he elevates the people around him, makes him the most valuable component of this defense. However, if we're looking at it in terms of the best player, which I think a lot of these awards are actually based on right now, I am going to give it to Garrett because of the flashy plays and the big moments that he's had this year in stepping up and saving games and a big time interceptions down the stretch and a fumble recovery that I think he gets credited for, even though it was a self-inflicted fumble from a teammate. He has made those big plays, which is why I'll give him the best player, but Michael Jones I have pinned as most valuable.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Garrett has made the flashy play. Garrett has also been toasted a couple
True.
times this season. But when you play corner, it'll happen. Michael has been good again, though. Like, Michael is so good. He's everywhere, leads the team in tackles, 4 for loss, 2 sacks, fumble recovery, forced fumble. The dude is fantastic, and he brings up the guys around him, like you said. Leon Lowry, Anwar Sparrow, Derek McDonald, whoever you plug into that Stephon Thompson-shaped hole that Syracuse has in the linebacker unit, Michael Jones has been there to bring them up.
Yeah, I called
So
him the
I'm
Night King.
gonna I'm
I
gonna
called
go
him the
Michael
Night King.
Jones. He's just
He
so good.
he is the Night King. He brings everyone up, right? From the
Facts.
dead, even. If you think that there is nothing more you can do, he raises those hands and elevates the entire defense that surrounds him.
All right, last question from at Carpe Beach. This is for you, Owen, because you live in Syracuse. If Cuse beats NC State and Clemson, will you go streaking through the quad?
No.
But Owen, you
No.
have to.
No, I don't. I'll tell you what, I'm sure
Hey
someone will.
guys, if this gets 1 million likes, Owen will streak through the quad.
I'm not losing my job over this. I'll tell you that much. Love Syracuse football. Love Syracuse athletics. Not losing a job for it. But I'll tell you what, I'm sure someone will. And whoever that person ends up being, I'm going to say that I sent them as compensation for me not doing it. But when all is said and done, Syracuse needs to string together back-to-back top 15 wins in order for this conversation to be revisited. So take it for what it's worth.
All right.
Good question.
Well,
sorry for my answer.
thank you for responding and whatnot for our mailbag episode. We're going to try to do these once a week to get everybody's questions answered. We appreciate it. But that's all the time we got. Thanks for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen every day. Go get more on the ACC by making Locked On ACC your second listen every day. Host Candace Cooper and the local experts of Locked On take you across the ACC in 30 minutes. Make Locked On ACC your second listen. I'm Matt Bonaparte. He is Owen Valentine. We will see you tomorrow.